To Donald Trump and MAGA, I will give you the lyrics to one of my favorite songs. I see the bad moon arising. I see trouble on the way. I see earthquakes and lightning. I see bad times today. Don't go around tonight. Well, it's bound to take your life. There's the bad moon on the rise. Let's talk. Hello, hello, hello. And that's a great song. Creedence Clearwater Revival, one of the greatest bands and one of the greatest lead singers of all times. Absolutely fantastic. And I was watching online, and so we got some MAGA people. I'm happy to see this. Apparently, there's MAGA people. They are burning their red MAGA hats, which is good. It's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. I love to see the MAGA people. I love to see anybody wake up. I love to see anybody realize they've been took, they've been had, they've been hoodwinked, they've been bamboozled. And what we got now is Donald Trump. I think we're getting to the point where the truth is being revealed. You know what I mean? And the truth is, and the truth was there. The truth was there when you had a guy who wandered around for 4 years, pooping himself. Literally, the man soiled himself in front of like the Pope and the Queen. It was, he told us he had cancer when he wasn't supposed to say that. He wandered around the stage looking for the invisible man. That's a clue. That's a clue. The MAGA people, here's the thing about the MAGA people in hindsight, because you can't see it in real time because you have hope. We all have hope. I have hope. Hope is something that it springs eternal. Hope is something that keeps us going. You know what I mean? Hope is necessary. So they had hope. I had hope. We had hope. But now in hindsight, you can look back like I did with a Bernie Sanders, a Barack Obama, etc. I can look back and I can say I was a schlump. I didn't know, but I did the best I could. And now, in hindsight, I'm just saying things could have been done better, right? And so now what we got is MAGA people looking up, saying, you know what? It was all a lie. And here's the truth: every bit of it was a lie. First of all, let me say this about. Let me start with this. To the Democrats, get out of here. Look, like I'm hearing Democrats, look what Trump's doing. Trump won't reveal the names. Trump was on the Lolita Express and he was on the news. Am I mistaken? Or didn't Joe Biden have the list for the last 4 freaking years? The Democrats had the list for 4 years. And did they release them? Did they hey, my God, pedophilia, child rape, and things like that? Unthinkable. What a horrendous and heinous act. We must release the names right away. No, they did the same thing to Trump. They're like, let me take a look at the whole great holy jumping Jehoshaphat. My God, I think that's my name. Yes, it is your name. You remember that time you were on the Lolita Express? Yeah, but I was hoping nobody else would remember. Well, guess what? That's what it was all about. It was all about someone else remembering. Let me tell you a true story. If you don't believe this, I don't care if you believe it or not. This is a true story. Absolute true story. And people know me. A lot of people that know me. I had connections. So I always said, well, I was on TV. I was on national TV. I was on Fox. Trust me, you're going to get connections, right? I had connections. I was starting to get into some pretty people. I knew some very powerful people that own a whole lot of ships and stuff like that. And, I was introduced to people, very, very powerful people all over the world at that point. And I don't realize at that point, I didn't get it. I didn't know the game. Truth, and I'm telling you all of this, there are people that know this is true. I didn't get the game. So I was going to events and, I go to an event and there's stars there and there's Chris Matthews telling me a story about, I didn't know this Chris Matthews. He told me when he first came to DC, what he was? He was a Capitol, he was a policeman over there, the Capitol, the January 6th, that's what Chris Matthews did, right? So I'm running into different people, I'm learning into things and I'm growing in them. My circles are growing. And I get a call one night. I get a call. I had no reason. I take a lie detector test. I get a call one night and someone asks me about going to a party. And I was like, I don't know, and this people that were really in the thick of things. And I was like, I don't know, it's a party, such and such night. And the person said to me, well, it's Las Vegas style. And I'm like, I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. So, and I'm like, oh, what? What Las Vegas? And they said it's Las Vegas style. And I said, what does that mean? And the person said, no panties. And I went, ooh, okay. Well, I don't think I'll be going to that party, right? I mean, I knew there'd be a lot of rich people there. I assumed based on the connections that were connecting me to this party. And I thought, debauchery, I'm not going to some party with a bunch of crazy rich people and their clothes off, God knows who. I'm a straight guy. Some person who could put their hands on me or attempt to touch me. There's just so many reasons that I wouldn't go. There's so many that's just one of many. I could give you 100 reasons why I would not go to that party. And I'm like, yeah, I knew, oh, gee, is it late? I got something to do. Now, and this is a true story. I'm just a putz. But at the time, I was on national TV, and I was on national TV regularly and starting to build a little bit of a following in this and that, right? And starting to get in the know. So, in hindsight, I have often looked back to that call and I thought, you know, I bet you there was cameras there. And I bet you there were people there. If you went to that party and got involved in God only knows what, there could be people of a young age there. God only knows what could be there. All kinds of activities taking on, right? And most likely cameras. And I just look back and I'm thinking, man, I'm glad not only that I didn't go to that party, I'm not the kind of person who go to that party anyway, but it struck me as that could have been my friggin' doom. If I went to that party, point. I had when I was at Fox, I had a lot of offers. I could go on various offers of different things, right? I was a lefty and I had a conservative organization. Not going to name any names. If I name names, some of you people might have heard of some of them, but these were black and true story group of black conservatives, and they were extremely well funded, and they were the guys who, the suits were $10,000 suits. The good-looking babes were on their arms every time they came in. I mean, they were living a very good life, and I got approached by one of them, basically saying, "Hey, dude, And in a nutshell, let me tell you the way it went. The conversation went. Wear a nice suit. Looked on my arm. You got a nice good looking watch there. You know the right brands. You speak the Queen's English well. We're doing real well. You might be interested in talking to us." I knew what it was. This was a bunch of black conservative guys, and there was very, very, very wealthy people who would basically say, "We'll support you. You go on TV, you say what needs to be said, and you live very well." To which I was like, "Yeah, well, thanks a lot." I've always been a person, I just say what I believe. So no, I'm not some sellout puppet. But I knew that was my point being, when I talk about Epstein, right? Don't just get caught up just on Epstein, right? I knew the guy when I was at Fox, who was the Koch brothers money guy, right? And everybody kissed his butt because if you wanted Koch brothers money, that's the guy you had to go through, right? So my point is, yes, there's Epstein, but trust me when I tell you this. I was on the outside periphery on it, but I was on TV. I was moving up. Which I left and quit on my own because when I started hosting a show and I started, to be frank, when I started hosting a show, oh, this is absolutely true. I would take a lie detector to any of this. When I started hosting a show and I started reading from a teleprompter, because I was always a guy who, and this is all important in the Epstein, in the spirit of the Epstein thing, in the context of the Epstein thing. When I hosted a show, started hosting a show, and I was reading from a teleprompter. And that's when I realized it wasn't for me. I lasted a month and I said, Dad, I'm done with this. I walked away. I'm like reading, and then like you read the show, and then you're like, interviewing people, and you've been given the questions and stuff, and then I can do a little bit on my own, and then when it's done, I got to do all of these 30-second bits because over the course of the time, the show comes on at 11. There's going to be advertisements at 7, 8, and 9, and I got to go. And now a Brooklyn couple do this, blah 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 blah. More at 11, blah blah, this kind of crap, right? And at that point, I'm like, this is not what I signed up for, and this is not who I am. And all the money in the world, you'd see me. I'm a YouTuber. I drive a 2013 pickup truck. Trust me when I tell you this. I got a vehicle too, but I'm just saying, I ain't rich. I'm just a middle-class guy scrambling to make a few pennies and earn a living, running off at the mouth. It's just that I get to do what I want to do. And hopefully, if things continue to go well, I'll be able to, put a morsel of bread in my mouth every now and then. But I ain't riding around, walking around in $10,000 suits. That's for sure, right? Just a regular person like you. But that just isn't what I could do or what I would do. Here's my point. You see Epstein because he's out front. And it is clear and obvious what this is, right? It's clear and obvious. Let's be honest. Alex Acosta said, I was told to leave Epstein alone because he's intelligence. He is Mossad. He is CIA. He is MI6. He is probably Five Eyes, all of them together. There is no question in my mind. At minimum, you see CIA, MI6, and Mossad are joined at the hip, particularly with an operation like that. There's a friggin' guy who's a school teacher without a college degree. And now he goes from a school teacher without a college degree, and then he's got a private island and a compound and planes and surrounded by women and sex all the time and the most powerful people. How did he get access to these people? Somebody's doing that. And why in the world does he get caught in Florida and he walks for something that any of us would get the rest of our life in jail for? And by the way, am I supposed to believe that the federal government couldn't go through his phones, couldn't go through his computers, couldn't go through everything he has, his hard drives, and find out everything? What about Ghislaine Maxwell's? They couldn't go into theirs. What about those two-step warrants, where if they get a warrant for George Papadopoulos per se or Garland Nixon, they can listen to me and everybody that I talk to, right? The pin warrants or whatever they call them, right? So you mean to tell me with all of that, NSA knows everybody who talked to everybody all the time. NSA peels everything out of it everywhere. But for some reason, the one guy they didn't was Epstein. He was the exception to the rule. James Clapper got on a stand and lied and said, we don't steal information from everyday Americans. And when asked why he lied, he said it was the least untruthful thing that I could say. So if it were you and me, and we were running around doing pedophilia, NSA could get everything we had. and know every place we went, every place we talked, every person we talked to, everything they did, every text message, everything. And then they could follow it up and look at that person's phone and text message and on and on and on. They could get everything for anybody except one, except Jeffrey Epstein. Well, because they were all in on it. So what we see now is one of the many operations that our intelligence community uses to ensure that the empire maintains its footprint in the world. That's what it is. This is one of many. I told you, I had a phone call about a party. Do you think that Epstein probably wasn't at that party, but do you think intelligence probably wasn't? You think those parties are, I got a call. Do you think that this is an abnormal party, that this is not something that happens, that they get people caught in all kinds of compromising positions? I was in an event not all that long ago, and I was suspicious of a woman there. I was very suspicious of a woman there. My spider senses, and for those of you people who don't know me, know I was a very highly trained investigator, and I was the commander of the investigations division, and I was trained in a lot of things, and then I was trained in a lot of terrorism, DITRA, the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which was under the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I was trained by then. Worked with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. When it comes to this investigation stuff, I kind of know what I'm doing pretty well. And I was at an event not all that long ago. There was a woman there that smelled as of intelligence. She was very attractive. She had this alluring attractiveness to her, and she was very friendly. To men that I thought to myself, huh, huh. And she was very friendly to me. She was very friendly to some other guys who were people who are maybe well known around. And something didn't feel right. That is a good looking woman. And she's here at an event that I would think intelligence would be all over. And she's sniffing all over guys. Wants to stay in touch with them. So bottom line is this, that they use honey pots in different ways, whether it's to lure someone into a sex or date or whatever. They use attractive women, or I would imagine if people are gay people, they probably use attractive gay men, whatever the case may be. Whenever somebody likes, unfortunately, in some instances, it's very, very young people who are under the age of 18, under the age of consent. They put whatever it is out there that the person wants. I imagine drugs, sex, all that stuff. So here's my point about this. People are like, Trump is on the Epstein list. Look, I would be willing to bet he's on a whole lot of lists. I would be willing to bet. In the same way, think about this. When they went after Trump the first time in 2017, what did they have on him? They had a couple of porn stars that he knocked off and paid, right? He knocked off a couple porn stars and paid them. And it didn't really bother him because a lot of men looked at the porn stars and said, "Oh boy, well, Trump, I ain't going to hate you for that. I mean, come on, you're a billionaire. She's a porn star, and you gave her 130 grand to, keep her mouth shut. Okay, hey, look, I may not do it, but you're a grown man. She's a grown woman. That's the decisions that the two of you made. Money's changed hands, and everybody walked away happy. She's already a porn star. She gets paid to do that already. So I'm going to hate on you. You're just another guy. You're just another actor in her life." So, but my point being, I would imagine a man like Trump, who, in my opinion, ain't, he may be streetwise, but I don't know how streetwise. Over the course of time, how many honey pots do you think they've thrown at Trump? I would bet you that the woman McDougal, and Stormy Daniels, they were both honey pot. There was both intelligence behind that stuff, most likely, and they just tried to use him to take him down. There was probably some intelligence. They had everything on Trump. Think about it. Trump had sex with a porn star and gave her 130. I'm get comfortable here. Gave her 130 grand to keep her mouth shut. Right? They knew everything. They knew that he had sex with her. They knew how much he paid her. They knew where the money came from. They knew everything. My point is, I think sometimes they put stuff in on ice, right? If they think that you're going to be powerful or you are powerful, you got money, they throw a couple honey pots, whatever it is at you, and they just keep it on the side in case they need it lately. So, yeah, Trump was around Epstein. He might have done some dirt there. That's possible. But don't think that that's the only thing that they could have possibly done to get Trump. Money, when he needed money for one of his bankruptcies or something, some Zionist billionaire, somebody from the UAE or Saudi Arabia or whatever, swooped into his life. Hey, Trump, you look like you're in bad shape there, buddy. Can I help you out? Yeah, sure. I'm losing this building. How much do you need? 120 million. I just happen to have 120 million laying around. But you got to keep it quiet because this is going to be illegal and you're not going to pay taxes on that. Okay, don't worry. I'll run it through 5 different shell cases. Come on. All of that stuff happens. And ultimately, MAGA did like so many of us have done. They looked at the surface. They saw a guy who was an actor saying the right thing. Zelensky's an actor. Reagan's an actor. This guy, and they wanted to believe, like we all do, that Trump was doing the right thing. And now they're finding out that he ain't. And here's the other thing about MAGA. If you're a Trump supporter, if you had hope, abandon hope, all ye who enter. There's no point in having hope anymore. If you're a Trump supporter, I think, or a person who was hoping Trump would do something or thought it was a possibility of maybe he wouldn't do the neocon endless war Zionist to the core thing, I think the important thing to do is know where you are. I think the important thing to do is just say, wait a minute, I got to do a reset, right? Kind of like you ever see these movies where some plane crashes on an island and all these people are on the island, people are going, oh my God, what are we going to do? And some guy, let's call him Garland, because I'm that kind, says, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's stop. First of all, let's look on our plane and let's see what we have to survive. Let's see how much food, how much water, all of those kind of things. We need to consider the situation that we're in. How many people do we have? How much food do we have? How much water do we have? Where are we? And then we need to put together a plan. Figure out how long we can probably survive based off what we have. And then we need fresh water. And then we need this and that. Then we need to try to figure out how we can signal for help and blah. We need to stop. We need to regroup. We don't need to run around with our hands in the air like you were in a cartoon where the people just like run through the wall and then there's a cutout with both arms sticking straight up in the air. We don't need to do that. So here's what I would say to the Trump people. Just understand where you are now. Just lose that MAGA, make America great again. Trump's gonna stop. Remember this? Remember this? The what was it called? It was QAnon. And with QAnon, it was like Trump. Remember this? Think about this now. Think about this now. QAnon was telling you that Trump had this plan, trust the plan, and that in this plan, he was going to go in and arrest all these insiders and stop. And part of QAnon was he was going to arrest these insiders. Hillary was going to all these people down. And what was he going to do? He was going to take down these pedophiles. QAnon. And nobody ever could figure out who QAnon is. Let me ask you a question. QAnon was on like Twitter. Remember that? Do you think that? And at the time, Twitter was full intelligence operatives, right? I mean, I got thrown off Twitter multiple times. People getting it was just absolutely, completely controlled by intelligence, as it probably is now. And so they were all over it. And stuff, this came out from Twitter, that came out from Twitter. Let me ask you this. There's nothing you can do that NSA can't figure out who you are, what you're doing, and where you're doing it from. for the most part. Do you really believe they couldn't figure out who this QAnon person was? Wasn't a person. That was an intelligence operation. And think about it now. Think about it now. QAnon said Trump's going to take down all these people and a ring of pedophiles. And what did Trump ultimately do? Exactly the opposite. What did Trump ultimately do? He protected a ring of pedophiles. So what's Q intelligence? QAnon said Trump's going to take down a ring of international pedophiles, right? At that time, intelligence was running an international ring of pedophiles and sex trafficking of minors and all of this stuff. Intelligence was running that. QAnon said Trump was going to stop that. And when Trump came to power, he worked to protect the very thing that QAnon said that he was going to take down. It is so obvious now that the whole QAnon thing was nothing but an intelligence operation. Think about it. Trust the plan. Whoever it was said, trust Trump. In hindsight, what do you think now? What do you think now? Do you think Trump's the guy to be trusted now? Any more than Genocide Joe was the person to be trusted? To be trusted, the man couldn't even make it to the bathroom in the Oval Office without spoiling his pants. You really believe he was running things? Absolutely not. He wasn't, we call him Genocide Joe, but in truth, he was, Depends Joe. You know what I mean? He was Incontinent Joe, is what he really was. I mean, you can't really, he went along with it if he knew, but in reality, um, I don't think he knew what was going on, and it didn't matter. And so now we got Trump. Trump is compromised in so many ways. But because he's part of the system, he doesn't really have to because he understands the game. Trump understands the game. He understands who the players are and who the players aren't. He understands what he can and can't do. And what do we know now? That everything he said was lies, but it doesn't matter. Don't get mad at Trump for that. That's the system that we're in. That's what we're given. You can't become president unless you repeat the lies of the machine. When the machine says to you, say this, you got to say it. Why? Because you've been to parties, you've had help with money, you've had women that done offered you this and that. Who knows what age you've done so many things that they have video and audio and tape for taxes and all that. Whatever, they can take you anytime they want to. So ultimately, you're compromised. And now, the only question as we look at MAGA is, I'll put it like this: who will be plants for the system and who won't? That's the only thing left with MAGA. Because if you're still going along with this, Trump is you're a MAGA person, or somebody supported Trump, and you're still going along with anything that has to do with Trump fixing the system, anything to do with Trump or anyone else. Look, I was a Bernie person. I can't. I was a Democrat before that. I was an Obama person. I'm not going to look at you and denigrate you. I've been where you are. Worse, maybe. At least as bad. Obama, Bernie, these people are the ultimate sellouts, the worst of the worst. And so just because this is happening to you, don't think I'm laughing in your face. Been there, done that. Got the embarrassment and the humiliation. We're brothers in arms, man. We're brothers in arms. We're officially been christened by the system. We've been lied to and snookered. But here's the deal. I woke up, not of my own air. You know what it is? You know how I woke up? This is how I woke up. I didn't wake up because I just looked around and said, I think I figured this thing out. No, I woke up because the system grabbed me by the collar. Said, Garland, You ever watch a movie and like the old Airplane where somebody's all going crazy and they say, "Wake up, snap out of it," and they smack the person a couple times and the person snaps out of it? That's what the system did to me. The system grabbed me, pip pop, pip pop, pop. The system snapped me out of it. I didn't snap myself out of it. I'd like to take credit for it. I'd like to say I woke up because I was so smart. I read a lot of books and I had the potential to wake up, but until the system shoved its fist down my throat, I wouldn't wake up. So the system woke me up. Thank you to the system for waking me up. And now you've got people who are burning their red MAGA hats. That's a good sign. That's a good sign because they were still inured to the system. They still thought that somewhere in the US government, of all places, that somewhere in the government that lied them into war with Iraq, lied to them about Vietnam. How about the Vietnam Papers? Through tens of thousands of soldiers killed, hundreds of thousands wounded in Vietnam. And what happens when the Pentagon Papers come out? We find out that they knew they could never win, that it was all lies. How about the Afghanistan Papers in 2012? Same thing. They knew they couldn't win. It was all a pack of lies. They threw our young boys and girls into combat to be slaughtered. How about in 2003? They sent people into combat in Iraq based on lies to start a war. And a lot of them didn't even have bulletproof vests. You know what they said? Well, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you want. You want. In other words, we don't give a shit about these soldiers. We're gonna be like, yeah, look at the soldiers. God bless America. Our soldiers are our heroes until they get home and then they're homeless until you got a pump full of Agent Orange and every other poison in the world. And they say, could I possibly get some help? I got a PTSD. No, you can't. You can't get help. Sorry, we're not going to fund VA. You're going to be homeless. You're going to be mentally ill because we threw you in the middle of some ungodly war in the desert somewhere, killing innocent people so we could steal their oil and everything else. You get nothing. We could care less. And you think that there's some part of this system that's not rotten to the core? Sorry. I mean, you can believe that. Go get yourself a flag. Go bake some red, white, and blue cakes and cookies and cupcakes for the 4th of July. Go do all of that stuff. I'm not saying don't love America. I'm telling you that whether or not you love America is irrelevant. Your government is rotten to the core. And of all things, think about this. Can you think of something worse than people trafficking children for sex to these oligarchs and world leaders just so they could get information on them and force them to do wars where they then go bomb and slaughter men, women, and children? Look what they're doing in Gaza. Could there be worse? Think about this. What they're doing in Gaza. They're bombing and slaughtering, murdering, incinerating men, women, and children. They now have American, and they got American mercenaries there. Trust me, the Israeli army ain't doing so good. So now Gaza, now that whole area is loaded with American mercenaries. And they're like putting out food and water for the people who are starving. And when they come get them, American mercenaries are mowing them down with machine guns, mowing down unarmed men, women, and children with machine guns. What else are they doing? Trafficking children for sex so that they can force any politician who doesn't want to support the machine gunning, bombing, and incineration of men, women, and children for sport. Effectively, they're doing it for sport. And they do trafficking of men, women, and children so that they can blackmail these people to make sure they continue to, in case one of them says, that's a genocide, I don't want to do that. Well, we do have this tapes of you with a young boy, girl, whatever. Crap, yeah, I guess you're right, huh? All right, continue with your genocide. These are the most evil people on earth. So to think that Trump or Biden or anybody else, that somebody could come to office in this system that would either have the inclination or the ability, either the ability or the inclination to do something to change that, well, you are on some kind of a drug that the rest of us wish we had that kind of joy juice, because it's not making any sense. That's where we are. Somebody says Gaza is now the crucifixion of so-called Western civilization. That's it. What we found is we've got Western industrialization. It ain't civilization. Industrialization is not civilization. There's nothing civilized about the ruling elite in Europe. Look at Merz. Look at a Starmer. Look at Macron. I mean, I don't care. First of all, let me say this about Macron. I do not care what his wife is. I don't care. It's none of my business. Could care less. That's between him and his wife. But I will simply say this as an old investigator. I'll say this about this again, as an old investigator. My spider senses, my inclinations as an investigator. One of the things you learn is it ain't all that hard. That a lot of times when you have an inclination that something ain't right, something ain't right. Here's my point. Look, if somebody said Garland was born a female and he's faking a male, all right, whatever. What do you think I'd do? Do you think I'd like hide, not come out? Do you think I'd go like they literally like a couple of people were doing that. We're saying, hey, we think that maybe perhaps this person was born a male and transitioned to female, right? As they say. And they like sent the Secret Service after these people, sued them for some weird idiosyncratic administrivia in the courts. The people recently, won won their appeal. It's going to go up. Who knows if they'll lose? If it were me, it ain't hard. Garland, we think you were born a woman. I'd be like, what do I need? What do you want? What do you want? Tell you what I'll do. I can produce people that are still alive that I was in first grade with, that I went to school with all through elementary school, that I was a boy. So I can produce people. What do you want? My pictures? I can come up with pictures, school pictures from over the course of the years. I can come up with all kinds of things. What if you think that, if heaven forbid, let's say I ran for president and someone said, well, Garland, we think you were born a woman. I'd say, okay, what do you need? They say, no, this is not difficult. This is not, who gives a crap? I don't care. What are you asking for? We want your school pictures. Piece of cake. We want people that knew you in elementary school as a boy. Not a problem. Not a problem. I'll produce people. I'll produce pictures. I'll produce documents. Not a problem. If you want whatever, I don't really care. It seems to be, as they say, like getting the hen's teeth to get the Macron family to produce the documents that being requested. So I'm just saying something's fishy there. And here's the thing about it. This is 2025. If in fact Brigitte Macron transitioned from something else and is now something else, so what? It's none of my business. Why do you even need to hide it? I've often said in this day and age, why do people even need to hide that stuff anymore? If somebody's gay, like, why do they just that it is what it is? I don't care. Everybody knows gay people. We don't care. I don't want to know about other people's sex life. I don't want to know. I'm a straight guy. To be quite frank, that whole gay stuff kind of grosses me out a little bit. I know people don't like that. People say, oh, there's something wrong with you saying that. Well, I'm sorry. Most straight guys know what I'm talking about. If you're straight, the thought of all that gay stuff really does kind of gross you out. I don't. And look, if somebody's gay, I would imagine all the stuff of straight stuff may gross them out. I don't go, hey, let me find a gay person and tell them about my heterosexual sex life. No. It's not their business. Why would they care? And why would I tell them? And I don't want to hear about a gay person's homosexual sex life. Don't need to know about it. But it doesn't have any bearing if I need a wall built in my yard. And I'm like, hey, I found somebody that can build a wall, and they've got great ratings online. And the guy comes there and he's like, that wall is there. Here's pictures of walls that I built, and here's the background. You can go wherever you want to. And he's a gay guy, but he's good at building walls. You know what I'm going to do? I don't care about him being gay. I'm going to look, okay, what's your price? Blah, blah, blah. And I look at it. Hey, that meets my budget. His work looks good. He's got a good background. You got the contract. Build my wall. I don't give a crap about it. I'm not going to ask him about his sex life. I don't need to know. I'm not interested. That's my point. So here's my point. If he just voluntarily says, well, I just like to tell you I'm gay, I'd be like, yeah, that was kind of late. I looked at you, dude. It was kind of a layup, really. This wasn't like something shocking to me. But I don't need to know. It's none of my business. Build the freaking wall. When you're done, we'll shake hands. Have a nice day. If I like the wall work, I will give me some cards. I'll give them to anybody I know that needs it. That's it. So here's my point. Whatever Brigitte Macron is, whatever Brigitte Macron's background is, I don't really care. If now I doesn't look good that old Brigitte Macron is beating, throttling her husband about the face and neck in a merciless manner in public, not a good look, but that's their business. But I'm just saying, I think, given the controversy, if Brigitte Macron is upset because people think Brigitte Macron has transitioned from being a male to a female, and Brigitte Macron is suing people and taking people to court and unhappy about that, then this person should either produce the stuff they're asking for, which clearly hasn't happened, or just say, here I am, I'm out of the closet, that's me. And you know what I would say? I don't want to know about it. My issue with Macron is not who he's married to. My issue is his policies are insane. He's a neoliberal banker. Goldman Sachs, he literally worked for the Rothschild Bank. Do you think I'm really concerned with who his significant other is? No, I don't even get that. So here's my bottom line. Someone said, Garland, is Nike paying you to advertise them? Yeah, wish they were, dude. I really wish they were. I mean, I wish they'd offer me some loot. Hey, Garland, wear a Nike shirt and we'll give you 10 grand. Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't know if I take it or not, because I'm not a puppet. But I at least wish they'd offer. So no, unfortunately, they haven't. And I don't know if they offered. I don't know what's going on with Nike, or if they're supporting apartheid or something, I guess. I don't know. I'm not, like, a lot of people know all of that stuff. I think Adidas maybe. But again, you know what I have to say? I bought this shirt from the Nike outlet off of a clearance rack, like so many of my clothes. I go to my outlet and buy clothes off the clearance rack. That's a good thing to do. You can buy expensive clothes and you buy it off the clearance rack, and you can get it for like $10 for a Nike shirt that probably costs $40 or $50 new, which I ain't paying that. Okay. But at any rate, I go on. So bottom line is this: Macron, Starmer, Liz Truss, Mertz, Schultz. These people are idiots. They're lunatics. They're criminals. And, I don't know if you saw this train coming from Kiev, and Macron, Starmer, and Schultz, I believe, were on it, I think. And there was a bag of something that there are people that thought might have been cocaine or some other illicit substance. And the three of them acted mighty suspiciously. I'll put it like this. I don't know that it was, but I will say this as a former investigator. The three of them acted exactly like you would expect an act. Now, I'm not saying it was cocaine. Here's what I'm saying. The three of them acted exactly like you would expect someone to act if it were cocaine. So I'm not saying it is cocaine. That when Starmer and Macron and their group sat down at that table and there was a baggie with something there, a white substance. I don't know what was in it, but their actions are exactly the actions I would expect someone to take if it was cocaine, which leads me to think, and I don't know, I could be wrong. My inclination is to believe that it was contraband of some type. What type? Not 100% for sure. It would have to be tested. I have my suspicions, but they acted in a way that a person would act if it were contraband. That's the best I can tell you as an investigator. I can't tell you what was in that bag, but I can tell you they acted exactly like I would expect the person. Same with you. You can look at that. And sometimes when you're doing investigations, you can say, I don't know that this or that or whatever. I don't know that the person is the murderer, but he acted exactly like I would expect a person to act if they were the murderer. You ask a person, the old question, there's three people in a room and you want to know who did it. Here's a question that you ask individually. Take them in a separate room and say, let me ask you a question. Whoever it was that, stole the cookie out of cookie jar, whatever, right? Whoever it was that did it, yeah. What do you think should happen to that person? And they'll say something like this. I think they should be hung by the highest yard up. They should be beaten, fired, and taken out and flogged. Okay. That guy probably didn't do it. Next one. What do you think should happen to the person who stole the cookie from the cookie jars? Oh, I think that, probably they should be laid off, fired. They should have to pay back their everything, blah, blah. I mean, just really blah, put it to them. And then the next guy, hey, Garland, yeah, what do you think should happen to the guy who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Well, the poor bastard probably likes cookies. He doesn't have any. I mean, I'm just saying maybe we should give him some cookies because he only stole the cookies because he loves cookies and he probably doesn't have any. So, we should have mercy on this poor gentleman. And I think we should just give him cookies so we won't have to steal him. There's a thief. You don't know that guy's the thief. But you know that guy's acting exactly like you would expect the thief to act. And the other people are acting exactly as you would expect someone who didn't do it to act. So that's what I'm saying about the contraband. So here we are. We get back to Donald Trump. I'm not going to say that Donald Trump is compromised. But I'm going to say that Donald Trump is acting exactly like I would expect someone to act if they were compromised. Donald Trump, look, we're sitting here. And we, through our common street sense, all know what Epstein was. I mean, I did the thumbnail as a joke. But come on, let's be honest. Why doesn't Trump just come out now and say JFK, RFK, and MLK, they all committed suicide too, so there's no need to release basic papers. He might as well do it. Doesn't matter. It would be as believable. It would be as believable that I'm supposed to believe that Epstein was put in a cell with Jimmy Tartaglione, a mob hitman who killed 4 people and buried them in his yard. Who I'm supposed to believe that did you know that Epstein was put in a cell with, look it up, Jimmy Tartaglione, a mob hitman. He was convicted of killing 4 people in a mob land hit. Who also said that at one point, the first time Epstein tried to commit suicide, that he was asleep. Then he slept. I'm supposed to believe that 2 people in this little teeny cell, lockup. One of them is a mob hitman. The other guy tries to hang himself with a sheet by falling forward on a doorknob with a sheet around it. I'm supposed to believe that the other guy slept through it. So the whole thing's a fraud. The whole thing's a lie. And I'm not saying Donald Trump's compromised. I'm saying he's acting like somebody would act if they were compromised. So you take that for what it is. I'm just an old investigator. That's the finding I make. And now MAGA is looking at this. Donald Trump said a number of things. how things work out in Yemen. He started a war and pretty much lost it. That's why he got out of it. He lost it. Mercilessly bombing, slaughtering, bragging about killing innocent civilians. He doesn't work for Netanyahu. He's aligned with Netanyahu. He's allied with Netanyahu. He thinks like Netanyahu. It's not that he works for Netanyahu. They're the same guy. Hey, did you see all of these innocent people I killed in Yemen? Let me share a video with you. How many of us do that? So, bottom line is, he lost the war. Well, America, I'm not taking any of these wars, and I'm sick of these neocons. They must be stopped, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, there's Iran. We'll lie to him. Hey, Iran, you want to make a deal? Yeah, let's make a deal. And while we're making a deal, these bastards are going to be knifing you from behind. That's what Donald Trump did. A man, first of all, let me ask you this. Let me say this. If Donald Trump would pretend to be negotiating in good faith, speaking in good faith, and talking in good faith to the Iranians while he was plotting to murder them, what do you think he'd do to you? When he was telling you, when he was talking to the Iranians saying, we're making a deal and we're doing this and we're meeting again on Sunday, he was plotting to kill them, overthrow their government, do every devious, evil thing known to humankind to the Iranians, right? So now we've learned the pattern of how Donald Trump negotiates. He negotiates at times to get you to put your guard down so he can stab you in the back. So, isn't it fairly obvious that's what he did to MAGA? Isn't it fairly obvious that's what he did to American citizens? That because when he was trying to get votes, he was negotiating with people. Hey guys, give me your vote. And you were saying, as I always said, WIIFM, what's in it for me? Oh man, I'm going to bring jobs back, make America great again. Sick of these wars? Yeah, got you covered. We're going to deal with these neocons. Oh man, sick of the price of vegetables and groceries and all that. Yeah, we'll bring those down. We're doing, oh man, all these good things we're going to do. He was doing the same thing he was doing to Iran. When he was doing that to you, he was plotting to stab you in the back. He was plotting to knife you in the back. He was plotting to take actions on the international stage that were going to cost you more money. What about these tariffs? They're going to cost you more money in the short and the long run. So at the time, he was negotiating for your vote, American voters. He was plotting to stab you in the back the whole time, exactly like the Iranians. Nothing different. He knew good and damn well that when he got in, that he and that good and well that he was talking to Netanyahu saying, look, we got to do this. No, I don't want to hold. Just take a couple weeks on hold. I got suckers here. I got to get straight. Let me get the suckers straight. Then we'll go back to what we, not you, we got to do. That's the whole thing. There's nothing wrong with being a sucker. I often bring up a book. I'll end by saying this. There is a book called The Confidence Game. Why it works every time, right? Con artist is called a confidence man. That's what people don't know. Con artists, confidence. They gain your confidence. And one of the things they talk about, people who listen to my channel know that, I've said this stuff many times. One of the things they talk about is the con artist uses what you consider your strengths against you. You feel like you're knowledgeable and smart. He uses that against you. And here's what he uses against you. That is after he closes, after he rooks you, after he snookers you, after he empties your bank account, the confidence man or woman then uses your embarrassment against you because you're embarrassed. You're a human being. He already wants to pick a person who thinks they're extremely smart and knowledgeable about. So if I'm a politician, I want people who think they understand politics. They're red pill, they're black pill, they're whatever pill they want, right? They know what time it is. That's who I want. Why? Because I'm going to lead you down the road of destruction. I'm going to lie to you in ways that you've never been lied to. I'm going to give you the big lie, a lie so big that you would say to yourself, who would ever tell a lie that big? That's why you'll believe it. And then I'm going to set you up. And then at one particular day you'll wake up and it'll be so clear and obvious that you've been snookered, you've been had, took, hoodwinked, and bamboozled. You are left high and dry. And then I'm going to I'm going to take advantage of one more thing. You're humiliated. You're embarrassed because you thought you were too smart to get taken. Thought you were too wise. You thought you were too knowledgeable about politics. You bragged. And because you were so knowledgeable and wise, you'd never get taken. Not you, other people get taken. And now that you've been taken, one thing you can't do is admit that you were vulnerable, that you were snookered. You can't say, man, Obama got the Obama people, Bernie got the Bernie people, and now Trump got me. But your strength is if you're able to do that. If you're able to look in the mirror like so many, look, when Trump ran, you looked at my channel. I said, look, isn't it kind of weird here? You know, Trump is sitting here saying things the Democrats won't say. Trump's saying he wants peace. The Democrats aren't. I said that. Let's see what happens. I don't have a lot of trust for the system, but I was like, let's see what happens. People got mad at me, but I'm like, why wouldn't I? As the old saying, any horse in a storm, what is it? Any port in a storm. I didn't believe, they're just saying Trump's going to do great things. But I looked and I said, well, maybe there's a chance. Well, now we know there wasn't a chance. But you know what? Don't be too embarrassed to say, I got told. That's fine. But I ain't doubling down on it. I'm not going to make excuses for somebody that lied to me. I'm not making excuses for Obama, not making excuses for Biden, I'm not making excuses for Bernie, not making excuses for Trump. And I tell you, again, what do I say? I don't trust this guy, Mamdani, that all these lefties love. Why? AOC and Bernie love him. They're endorsing him. Sorry. AOC and Bernie snookered me. Why would I trust the guy that they endorse? They think he's wonderful. That's a good reason for me not to trust him. Is what it is. But do not be embarrassed to say you've been snookered and wake up and say, you know what, Trump's just another Zionist puppet. That's all he is. And if you think, look, you think JFK and RFK, you think Israel wasn't all over that? You think the Mossad wasn't all over that? You ain't getting nothing. You know what? It was all suicides. Everybody committed suicide. Anybody, if you got questions of Trump, hey, Trump, what about the death of, I don't know, Frank Lucas, whoever the hell? Suicide. RFK, suicide. JFK, suicide. Everybody committed suicide. From now on, just take it for granted that anything you ask Trump, any suspicious death that he promised you that he was going to give you the details about, that he was going to give you the information about, they committed suicide. Just leave it at that. That's Trump's blanket thing is it was suicide all the way down. Time to move on. And it's time to move on from Trump. It's time to stop having a discussion about Trump. It's time to wake up and understand the American system, to understand the neocon system, to understand the whatever terms you want to use, whatever adjectives you want to describe. Understand that they just lie. Do you think it's an accident that we went from Build Back Better to Big Beautiful Bill? You think like, isn't that interesting? Build Back Better, Big Beautiful Bill. No, they do like, they're like, what'll sound good? Build Back Better. Build Back Better. Let's try some focus groups. That sounds good. Now Trump, Big Beautiful Bill. Hey, you know what? Build Back Better worked. Yeah, let's just like, what do you want to go with for this bill? Well, we got Build Back Better. Okay, we got to sound like that. But Big Beautiful baggage, bull, big, blah, blah, bill, bill, Build Back Better, Big Beautiful Bill. We're going with Big Beautiful Bill. Fair enough. And you're going to get screwed. And they'll have some other thing that's from now on, every president's going to have their Build Back Better or Big Beautiful bullshit bill or whatever. It's just time to wake up. And if you realize you've been had, to say I've been had and move on. That's all. Because forget Trump. This is the system. You'll get another Trump. You'll get some other version of Trump. Behind Trump is J.D. Vance. He works for Peter Thiel. He's Peter Thiel's puppet. So he's going to pretend. J.D. Vance's job right now is to pretend to be the man of conscience. What do we keep hearing? Yes, JD Vance didn't want to attack Iran. JD Vance didn't want to go with Europe with Yemen. JD Vance didn't want to, in the same way Trump didn't want to do it. Now JD Vance doesn't want to do it. Why is it that the guy in charge always wants to do it, and the guy in the background, who's second in charge, never wants to do it? He doesn't want to do the war. He doesn't want to do the pedophile, whatever, letting Epstein go. The second guy in charge never wants to do that until he gets in charge, and then he wants to do it, and the second guy behind him doesn't want to do it. Over and over and over. If you want to know who wants to do the Epstein thing and whoever rubbing people out, starting wars, it's the guy in charge. If you want to know who doesn't want to, it's the Peter Thiel puppet who's second in charge. So you'll want him in charge. So when you get mad at Trump, when you get mad at the avatar, you'll scream for JD Vance. Well, we want JD Vance. Why? Because he's a more reasonable guy. He doesn't want to attack the Houthis. Doesn't want to go back with attack Iran. He doesn't want war with China. He doesn't want war with Russia. Hey, JD Vance is in charge. Wait a minute. He seems to have done a 180 on all these. Who could have saw that coming? All right, everybody. Let's look. Let us find. I think we may have some super chats. So let me try to get myself together. In fact, I'll even sit up straight. Oh, my aching bones. Oh, my God. I've been too busy here the last couple days at the undisclosed secret bunker location. The old secret bunker. Let's go here. Do we have to reconsider Monica Lewinsky being a honeypot and the 78 days of Yugoslavia as a distraction? Oh, of course, Monica Lewinsky was a honeypot. There's no question about that. I got a video on that. Oh, come on. Linda Tripp was the woman who was at the center of the Monica Lewinsky. Oh, let me see this. Linda, I'm going to show you. Tripp. Military intelligence. There's just so much. Let me show you one thing right here, just so you'll I'm glad somebody asked that. Share screen. Here's one. Okay. Linda Tripp, new Pentagon papers show Linda Tripp was a high-level mole. Linda Tripp. Let's see. Let's do this. Let me find this. Once trusted civil servant. Well, bottom line, I've done this before, so I'm not going to do it right now. Let me just make it plain and simple. Linda Tripp worked for military intelligence. You don't have to believe me, look it up. She worked for military intelligence. What do you think? You just look it up. Start searching that. Linda Tripp, military intelligence. She worked for military intelligence. Where was Linda Tripp working when she met Monica Lewinsky? Where was she employed? Where was her desk? At the Pentagon. She worked for military intelligence. She was at the Pentagon, Linda Tripp. She was 45 years old, and Monica Lewinsky gets stuck in the Pentagon near her desk, and a 45-year-old woman strikes up a friendship with a 23-year-old woman, and then just starts recording her mysteriously for no reason, just decides to start recording her conversations, 20 hours of them. Who does that? Way back in the 90s. What kind of technology did she have back then to do that? Isn't it interesting? How about this? Let's see. Netanyahu offered Bill Clinton. Watch this. Monica Lewinsky. Watch this. Now, this is from the Times of Israel. You think here we go. From the Times of Israel. Netanyahu said to have offered Lewinsky tapes for Pollard. How the hell did Benjamin Netanyahu get all of these tapes of he had tapes of conversations between Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Netanyahu. Isn't that interesting? You look it up. Netanyahu. Hey, Bill Clinton. I got some tapes of you and Monica Lewinsky you might be interested in. Epstein was running in and out of the Clinton White House. Why? Because he was running the honeypot operation with Monica Lewinsky to make sure that Bill Clinton did what he was told. Those of us who know what time it is know that. And I guess now you do too. All right. The Epstein list, business of all things, has a high likelihood in bringing down Trump. What's your thought, Garland? Nah, ain't bringing down Trump. It's not bringing down Trump. It's just the opposite. It will ensure that Trump stays in office because his masters now know Trump worked for us and Trump's going to look out for us. And Trump is one, he doesn't give a shit about these MAGA people. They can burn their MAGA hats. They can say all Trump has to say is, look, I know I'm going to get blown out in the midterm. I want you to promise me that I won't get impeached. And they'll say, you're going to do everything Israel wants? Yeah, then you won't get impeached. I'm going to worry about that. We got you covered. So no, he's not going to get brought down. Just the opposite, because he is the Zionist puppet. This is a Zionist empire, completely Zionist controlled. Completely, Zionism is a religion for the ruling elite of America because it gets them all rich, and keeps them in power. So no, Trump's good. How about this? The scary thing is that they don't even need honeypots to capture and control politicians. Donald Trump and Marilyn Mosby had lawfare used on them for allegedly loan fraud for inflating their assets. Absolutely. That's all these people do. I agree. Same with Marilyn Mosby. They took her out. Absolutely. She didn't do what she was told. They took her out. That's the way the game plays. Come on. Look, think about Marilyn Mosby. She was the Baltimore State's attorney. They said she put something on, she had filed some papers for property that she was purchasing in Florida, and she put something on it that was false. Now, think about that. What that means is that she bought some property, that the FBI had to go get those papers, subpoena them, and go over them bit by bit until they found something. Everything Ms. Marilyn Mosby did, everything she wrote, everything she bought, every taxes, everything she did, they combed through with a fine-tooth nail until they, a fine-tooth comb until they found something to take her out. That's what they do. They comb, if they want you, they comb through everything you've done for years with a fine-tooth comb and they take you out. That's what they did to Marilyn Mosby. That's the game. Let's go here. Speaking of cocaine, whose bag of coke was in the White House a year or so ago? And are there cameras in the White House? Or were they Epstein cameras? Exactly. Of course they do. I have heard that it was actually Kamala Harris's. Kamala Harris's, you hear, always sounds like she's drunk. I hear that she does. Now, it's rumor. I don't know that it's true, but I heard it was hers. I heard that she does have some significant issues, that she drinks a lot and she uses a lot of drugs. Now, whether it's true, I don't know. That's just a rumor. I'm not saying it could be completely false. Somebody could say tomorrow, Garland Nixon's a cocaine addict and he drinks every day and he's a pedophile and on and on and on. So you could say that about anybody. That's a rumor that I heard. So I don't know. Could have been very well, you know whose. Could have been Hunter Biden. Are you kidding me? It could have been anybody's. Thank you for the super sticker, Ivan B. Anthony says, where is a real socialist leader who will lead the masses against the ruling class? Is it you? Is it me? Jonathan says, Garland, could the wearing of masks by ICE spread to regular cops? Most likely will. Most likely will. All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Certainly appreciate that. Everybody, number one, share, follow me on Rumble, Rockfish, all that stuff, Telegram, if you can afford it. If you can afford it. Patreon, buy me a coffee, PayPal, one of those. If you could spare a few bucks for a fellow American who's down on his luck, as they say, the old Bugs Bunny cartoon. But look, if you can contribute to your channel, certainly appreciate it. Even if you can't, look, the most important thing you can do is share this on all your social media platforms. Thank you very much. Oh, we got one more. We got Basil says, great show as always. Time well spent, Mr. Nixon. Thank you very much, Basil. Thanks, everybody. Share this on all your social media platforms. Again, as I said, PayPal, Patreon, whatever, if you can afford it. If you can't, the main thing is share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.